The call to order the December 19th regular meeting of the Baldwin County Commission, and I have Pastor Ann Rowan from Family Ministry Center here in Fairhope who's going to deliver our invocation. Pastor, if you'll just come up to the podium, and then after that, Commissioner McKenzie will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ann Rowan, and I'm the lead pastor at Family Ministry Center. We're a non-denominational church here in Fairhope where visitors become family. It is my pleasure to be here with you today, and I want to thank you all for all you do for the Baldwin County family. And I feel blessed to be a part of it, and I am honored this morning to deliver the invocation for this meeting. Let us pray. Father God, we approach you this morning humbly thanking you for all that you are. I thank you for the officials here today that you have placed in position to govern this county. I pray, Father, that as they make the important decisions for the good of the people, Lord, they will be in one mind and one accord, even as your disciples were, Father, united together with the same intent under one cause. I pray, Father, that their influence and their decisions will impact the progress of the people and will cause this county to flourish beyond their wildest dreams. God, I hold them high before you this morning, and I pray that you will impart unto them godly wisdom, and I pray for the divine strategy that they need as they close out this 2023 year and make plans for 2024. I pray this in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please join me in a pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, first item on our agenda is the adoption of the December 5th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt the minutes of December 5th, 2023 regular meeting.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Gruber. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Commissioner Ball. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Motion carries. Next, we have our finance payment of the bills. Commissioner McKenzie?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we payment of our bills.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to pay our bills. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Good. It's wonderful that we can pay our bills.
Yes.
That is a blessing. Next thing is just a notification of interim payments approved by the clerk treasurer as allowed under policy 8.1. Next on our list is our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve our consent agenda?
Just, Madam Chairman, before we approve the consent agenda, just reference for the public that on item CC1, I think it was reference number 4 has been pulled from the consent agenda to vote on separately.
Okay.
And there's also something else in there that I need to address as well with the resolution. But it's going to hinge on the fact of the other vote that we have to take. The time frame is a little off on the resolution. It says 8 to 4 when it needs to be 8 to 5 to accommodate vendors that will be there. And what that would do would create a situation where it'd be one more hour of pay for employees that are out there for that long, and the numbers would have to be adjusted. But all this needs to happen today, and I'm sure we could fix it somehow or another. But it's all dependent on number 4.
Well, we could actually vote separately on CC1 first before we do the consent agenda.
Well, we can do the consent agenda, but I think we need to move CC1 down to the other staff recommendations.
Right, but he said CC2 was also dependent on, or you just want to change it from 8 to 4 to 8 to 5?
No, ma'am. It'd be two different. We'll leave it as is if that number 4 fails. If number 4 passes, we'll need to go to 5 o'clock, is what I'm saying.
Okay, so would it be out of order for us to just go ahead and vote on CC1 before we do the consent agenda as a separate move it up instead of it being other staff.
I mean,
Or you just pull-
you could take it out of, that's up to the commission. If you want to go ahead and take it out of order and address CC1
CC1.
now?
So let's
Yes.
let's pull CC1 and CC2 to other staff.
That'd be simple, that'd be cleaner.
All right, we'll pull, okay, so the rest of our consent agenda is as discussed. The only really difference is that CC2 is also not being included in consent, correct?
CC1, CC2 being removed
All right,
consent.
CC1,
down to other staff.
CC2 is not part of the consent agenda. CC1 was not a part of it anyways from the work session. So, all right, so do I hear a motion to approve our consent agenda minus CC1, CC2?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, so
Sorry,
now-
Madam Chairman.
That's fine. It was a little confusing. Okay, so we'll come back to those when we get to other staff, correct? So we can stay on board. Okay, so I guess we are at the public hearing portion of our meeting, and again, I'll go ahead and repeat this for those who may not have been paying attention or those who may have been talking or what have you. So all individuals wishing to speak during public hearings or public comment must fill out a speaker form. Comments from individuals should be limited to 3 minutes. Groups are asked to select a spokesperson to speak on behalf of the group with comments limited to 5 minutes. With all that being said, we're also going to move ES2 as the first case that we're discussing because I believe that is the case that most people are here signed up for. And is the planning department okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
It was actually requested from the planning department that we move ES2 case number Z23-37 to be the first one that's discussed. All right, thank you. Corey?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning. Good morning.
This is a rezone request for Z2337, the Noguera property. The request is to rezone 6.1 acres from
Hey, Corey.
RSFE
Corey,
to RA.
hey, I'm sorry. If you could click the click share button.
Oh, I'm
It doesn't
so
look like
sorry.
you're broadcasting. There we go.
All right, there we go. So the request before the Planning Commission is to rezone 6.1 acres from RSFE to RA. The subject property is located in Planning District 22. The subject property is located north of Barclay Avenue and west of 7th Street in the Lillian area. The current use of the property is residential. The applicant and owner is Ms. Maria Noguera. The proposed zoning is for RA, Rural Agricultural District, and the applicant would like to rezone for a small farmer's market. Excuse me. Here's the locator map and the site map. As you can see in the locator map, the adjacent zonings are RSFE as well as RSF1, and the adjacent land uses are residential other than to the west where it's institutional. Here's a close-up look at the locator map, and you can see the adjacent zonings surrounding the subject property. And here's the site map. I've also called out the streets surrounding the subject property. We have Barclay Avenue to the south. We have 7th Street, which is an unopened, unimproved right-of-way to the east. And then to the northeast, we have Key Avenue. Here are some property images. This is the subject property, and then the adjoining properties. Here are the current zoning requirements for RSFE zoning and the proposed zoning requirements for RA zoning.
Could you leave it on that one for just a minute?
Yes, ma'am.
Go back to the proposed.
I've highlighted that a farmer's market is a permitted use within RA zoning.
But just for questions, so is A through I.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
And here's kind of a snip from our zoning ordinance. This is the table of permitted uses. And you can see some of our uses on the left-hand column. And then at the very top, you have our zones. And then I've highlighted farmers market / truck crops. And if you look at RA at the very top and then go down and across where we see farmers market, you see a little P, and that P means a permitted use. There are also some C's within this table, and that means conditional use. And I'm going to go ahead and go to this next slide and talk a little bit more about permitted uses versus conditional uses. So we're going to look at RSFE and RA. So the subject property is currently zoned RSFE, which is Residential Single Family District. A permitted use is allowed by right, subject to conditions either within the table of permitted uses in our zoning ordinance, or throughout the zoning ordinance. So here are the permitted uses within RSFE zoning, and then permitted uses within RA zoning. And as you can see, there's quite a few more permitted uses within RA zoning, but they may require additional items. A conditional use requires commission site plan or CSP approval by the Planning Commission. And then underneath either of these zonings, we see conditional uses. We have a daycare home, which is a conditional use with CSP approval, fire station, a school, an event venue, a bed and breakfast or tourist home, and then all outdoor recreation uses would be a conditional use under RSFE zoning. And then we have RA zoning, and the conditional uses underneath RA zoning. All institutional uses other than a church or a sanitarium, bed and breakfast or tourist home, event venue, a mini warehouse can be allowed in RA with commission site plan approval. All transportation, communication, and utility uses, and an RV park is allowed in RA zoning with commission site plan approval. So like I mentioned earlier, under permitted uses with RA, we see a lot more uses. They would require conditional site plan approval. So a permitted use, a P in our zoning table, can turn into a C, a conditional use, if one of the factors from section 18.9.2 of our zoning ordinance is triggered. So for this particular property, the subject property is within 200 feet of property that is zoned and or used as residential. So that P, that permitted use, turns into a C, a conditional use, and that would go in front of the Planning Commission for approval. Here are the 11 factors that we look at for a rezone request. Looking at the symbols within each of these boxes, the question mark, this means the factor may or may not have been met. The check mark, in general, this factor has been met. And then the X represents that factor not being met. And a lot of this has to do with our main goal, which is compatibility. So here's the locator map again, showing that zoning around the subject property. I'm not going to go too much into this. This is all in your staff report. This outlines what was in those boxes in terms of, is this compatible? Is it not compatible? Or are we unsure about the compatibility? So I'm going to go through this super quickly. Looking at agency comments, we did not receive any other agency comments for this rezone request. And then at the Planning Commission, staff remained neutral and deferred to the Planning Commission for a recommendation to the County Commission. And the Planning Commission recommended approval on this particular request. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Can you go back to the slide where it's got the uses?
Yes, sir.
And I guess I already probably know the answer, but when it says permitted uses under RSFE, and it says all agriculture uses, so anywhere she can do whatever she wants as farming, as growing stuff, but as a farmer's market.
That would be a local commercial use.
Okay.
Yes,
I figured that's what it was. I just wanted to make sure I understand that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Court? Before we open the public hearing, this is Commissioner's opportunity for questions before the public hearing. Okay. Thank you, Corey. All right, we will close the regular meeting and open the public hearing for case number Z23-37. Mr. Rendelman, who do we have signed up to speak?
Oh, we have Miss Maria.
All right, Ms. Maria, are you speaking on behalf of a group or behalf of yourself?
Myself.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Okay, we ready with the timer, Michelle?
Yes.
All right.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Gruber. Ms. Finley. Morning,
Madam
Ms.
Chairman,
and
I
Jeff.
think she's waiting to upload a presentation, so
Yes.
if you might
Ms.
want to
Biggs.
stop the clock, Michelle, and start over when she can get her y'all trying to get a presentation up?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Or you just asked me to click through.
Okay.
Yes, she's just going to ask. Well, since maybe a lot of people here has been so busy, don't know my place, I would like to show today, especially my neighbor here for the opposition. Never have condition to be there in my place and see what I'm doing there. With the help of my parents, they are here.
Okay.
I like to resign in my place, to become a farm. To show the pictures. That's my family. Anyway, that's the location, like Corey did say. They are in Lily on our community. That's the job I have been doing there. In this first time, I did have, with the help of my father and my mother, trying to rezone it to be a farm. I did establish there about 2,000 blueberries plants. Also, I did have the hives. I did put in there also the flowers for this. I did have the chickens. I did have the vegetables, Somebody, yeah. This is my father, my mother. We have been there for the last 3 years to establish this farm. As a third time we have in this rezoning, I decided to have a farm. And this is when I have the first harvest for my blueberries. I have 7 types of blueberries. I'm trying to have an organic farm there. And I would like if it's approved for not only liability in my place, but also because we are going to find as a farm grants, and I am with the extension, where I took some classes. I try to have the hives. I don't have pesticides. I don't put herbicides there in my place. Everything's like with the mulch, with the cardboards. Everything's like 4 times. We did have pets off it, like in the summer for the corn and also for the watermelon. And this is my store. I did convert the barn in a store, and I have selling not only the blueberries on the containers, but people can come back there and have the pickup. And if you're coming to have a pickup, I do need to change to a farm because that's the liability. This time, as the first harvest, I did pay a small, different, as a residential, I need to have a different policy just to cover for liability for people who show up there in my place. And you can see it's like a family. I have people coming there and pick it up and also can sell on the container. And this is my family, this is my farm. I would like to say thank you for 163 people did sign the petition for me. Also, I would like to say thank you for my friends going to be here today, travel from Lille, just speaking my behavior, and also for the emails they sent to the county. And if you guys have any questions about the farm.
Questions for Ms. Maria?
Miss Maria,
Yes, sir.
with your accent, where did you come from?
I'm coming from Brazil.
You came to Brazil, and you came to this country to better yourself.
Yes, I came 30 years ago, and I am a registered nurse.
Sure.
I did work for 28 years, and I ended up to be in Pensacola, where my sister has been here. And I did work in Pensacola for 28 years. I worked 2 years in Orlando. I did a lot of travel nursing. And then I ended up to buy a place in Lille 10 years ago. It's the 6.1 acres, I have trying to rezone my place, I got my citizenship in 2004, and I decided to be here in this country because I do believe this is the land of opportunity. If you don't have this country, you can't have, and that's my opportunity here.
Okay, all right. That being
Thank
said,
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Who we got next?
I have a Dr. Dean Wood.
Morning.
Morning.
Everybody doing well today?
Yes, sir.
My name is Dr. Dean Wood, and I teach social psychology for Columbia Southern University. The only reason I mention that is I understand people are resistant to change. And so what I'm going to do is let's address that change. I'm writing this email in support of Maria for rezoning from residential to agricultural because I live directly across from Maria's property, and I really believe that this endeavor is good for the community. I know families that went 6 different times during the month that she was open selling blueberries, and I believe this is actually a positive impact for health, safety, and wellness. People and their children are outside having fun, picking blueberries, and enjoying the acres of sunflowers, along with the butterflies that the zinnia plants bring. Families really do enjoy this adventure. Now, I understand the real concern is a major increase in traffic in our area. Virtually all of the neighbors are in favor of rezoning to agricultural and have signed a petition in favor of rezoning. I have been her neighbor for over 10 years, and she is a good Christian woman who hosts non-denominational prayer meetings. She is basically loved by the entire neighborhood. And I also like to mention that Maria is a first-time generation immigrant from Brazil who worked for 30 years as a nurse and then bought 6 acres so that she could live the American dream. Please help us rezone Maria's property from residential to agricultural. I would also like to remind the committee that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and we truly believe this is a good addition to our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
I have Gail Beach.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Gail Beach, and I'm a resident of Lillian, Alabama, and a friend of Maria's. Did everyone see the 163 signatures that we presented to the Planning and Zoning meeting? I'm not sure that was included in your original minutes. The petition requests that you vote yes to rezone Maria's property to RA. Since that meeting, we have obtained several more signatures. I also know you have received several emails, numerous emails, to vote yes to rezone Maria's land, because I was CC'd on most of them. If anybody did not receive them, either one of those, we can present those for you. We have a copy of those for you. A quick reminder, Baldwin County mission statement. The mission of Baldwin County Commission is to provide customer-focused service to people who live, work, and visit Baldwin County so they can enjoy a safe and thriving community and experience our unique heritage and natural resources, which I think that should include a big old bowl of fresh organic blueberries. All right, our vision statement, a place where you'll find opportunity, recreation, and culture now and for generations to come. Please vote yes to rezone Maria's land to RA. Thank you. Commissioner McKenzie, you spoke and asked a question earlier about whenever you said put the map back up. Yes, it did include agricultural, but we cannot have it surveyed as an organic farm until the property is rezoned to RA. So that's why we're here today. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, next up, I have Vera Clarkson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for giving me this time. Maria is a very good friend of mine, and she comes from the same country I came from. And I became American citizen in 1976 on Flag Day, and I'm very proud of it. And I am in support of rezoning of Maria property. I share a connection with Maria as we migrated from Brazil, became U.S. citizens. As the Baldwin County mission statement indicates, it is a county to opportunity, which was our goal in migrating to this country. Maria's hard work and work ethic I never seen anybody like her. She works so hard from morning to nighttime. It's dark and she's still out there digging. And she's an example, which is very much lacking in today's society. I'd much rather see her than going to these cities where they're having all the stores robbed and looting and doing all the stuff that they're doing. She's doing the right thing, in my view. Anyway, I, along with many others, are in support of the rezoning to give the community an option of healthy, nutritious, and fresh produce. She is a joy for me because we are connected because we come from the same country, and it's so good to go over there and visit and be with her father and mother and speak the language, and we're so happy together, and I feel I've found somebody that connects with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Kimberly Freely.
Good morning. It's actually Feely. I'm from a farming community from Alberta. My family farms. I farm. Mr. Gruber, I don't know if you remember me, but you ignited a flame within me to grow fresh vegetables. Meeting at the farmer's market many years ago. I have my children here with me. They also grow with us. They farm with us. We grow not only non-GMO fruits, vegetables, we raise cattle, chickens, and we've just gotten into hogs. And this is not just for personal consumption, but for those that want healthy alternatives to what's being offered in the stores now. It's important that Baldwin County is growing the way that it is, and farmland is being taken up. With every development, it's another nail in the agricultural coffin. And if we can keep little slivers of agriculture going within Baldwin County, which is part of the history of Baldwin County, it's important to do so. Not only for the community right in that surrounding area, but those visiting, people coming looking for those qualities of fruits, vegetables. You pick blueberries, fresh beef, fresh pork, fresh chicken. It's imperative that those are available to everybody in the community. And I thank you for your time. I thank you for your consideration. And I am 100% in support of Maria's rezoning to keep agriculture alive in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Wendy Donovan.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Hi there.
I just first want to say that Maria has been a very good neighbor to my father before.
Hold on just a second, Miss Wendy. What?
Michelle, they need the gas key downstairs. I guess the gas man's here.
Hold on just a second. We'll let you start over, okay? I'm sorry about that. I just didn't want your timer to get messed up with.
Now they want the gas man to leave. We need gas.
Okay, you may start over, Miss Wendy. Is that right, Wendy?
Good morning. My name is Wendy Donovan. My husband and I reside at 131-457th Street. We live on the dead end of Key Street, right behind Maria. I just wanted to start off in saying that I love Maria. I really and truly do. I just hate it has come to this. Her farmer's market will be 30 yards from our home. to me, that is unacceptable. Where I'm not understanding is all of these pros for Maria, the emails, the everything, no one is talking about a farmer's market. It's all about the blueberry farm, all of it. How big is this farmer's market going to get? Candy, who was a strong supporter of Maria, had came to me after the zoning meeting while Maria was standing there and said that Maria had assured her she was not going to sell produce from other places. When I first talked to Maria, Maria told me that she would be bringing other people's produce. Maria does not have the acreage to sustain a farmer's market. She maybe has an acre left to grow her own crops. Where are all these other crops coming from to start this market and to sustain this year-long farmer's market? The back gate is an issue. It's dangerous. With us coming off of 7th Street and us coming off of the dead end of Key. As far as this petition goes, in my opinion, it looks like it was somebody gathered signatures from the entrance of Walmart. I counted 9 different area codes. No addresses for anyone on this petition but 7. Nobody else, I think, even lives in our community. So we're going to let that petition of those signatures with no addresses decide our future? Because that's what it is. You know, Maria, if she gets approved from this zoning, there are a lot of other things that can be opened up there. And the neighborhood has always fought on that piece of property that sits dead center into our neighborhood. They have fought it and they have fought it. And I just don't feel there has been transparency there of, no, this is not just going to be a blueberry farm. This is going to be a year-round farmer's market. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Next is Candace Reed.
Hi, I'm Candace, also known as Candy Reed, and I hail from Denver, Colorado. One of those area codes, 303 on the list. Had the number for 33 years. This misconception about farmer's market is in your lingo. When you guys call it a farmer's market, it's not going to be a farmer's market. I moved to Lillian to find fresh vegetables, but I'm picky. I like organic, I like non-GMO, and I'm failing in my search. I've learned one in Alberta I didn't know about. When I found the blueberry farm in June, I'm like, wow, what an enrichment for the community. If the neighbors are truly worried about traffic, it's currently zoned for over 50 properties if it could be subdivided, and that would supply a lot of traffic. Maria does not want people coming onto her property with big rigs like we saw at the last hearing, dropping off vegetables. Our darling woman from Alberta grows yellow watermelons. I've never seen one. And then I read about them. It's like, wow, you want one. I understand a concern about farmers market where all these different farmers are coming. That is not Maria's goal, and it is so rare to find organic, and she cannot get that designation without the right zoning. She also must use heirloom seeds. You can't find that. The biggest farm that we have right on 98 does pesticides and has all GMO seeds, and that's the only way they can be successful on your typical farm, which is a shame. I have found organic meat, chicken and beef, which I'm delighted with, but 3/4 of the year I live here, I really think the community needs something like an organic farm. Not a farmer's market, but a store on the farm that you can go to and buy vegetables because you would like to greenhouse them. So it's really an enriching experience for the whole area because there's a dearth of it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I have Mike Ross.
I'm Mike Ross. I'm very envious of the folks that have spoken here. They don't seem nervous. I feel nervous, so I'm not a speaker, so I'll do the best I can. I'm here to request to deny this change because I live on 7th Street on the dirt road, the non-improved road right next to the farm. Built a house there, finished it in June, and it's a dirt road, it's private, it's quiet, the farm is quiet, and all that's going to change with a farmer's market, and that's what Maria asked for, is a farmer's market. There's a petition that was signed by 17 property owners, everybody on the east side of Maria's property, me included, several owners on the north side of Maria's property, Wendy included. The church to the west, of course, they're not going to sign. And one property directly across from Maria's property on the south signed to deny the request. My signing it and then the other folks signing it doesn't have anything to do with prejudice or ill will toward Maria or her family. She's a very hard worker. It's a great story. It's simply a strong no to putting a business in the middle of a neighborhood. That's all it boils down to me. 2 blocks from there, 3 blocks from there, there's a strip mall. It's been there for years. That farmer's market could go there. Down at the intersection of 6th and Barclay is it's a bakery. That was built in 1925. That was the post office. So the post office moved down to the end of Barclay, and now it's a bakery. That's the closest business there is to Maria's property. There's a lot of folks that want to approve this. I don't want to be the bad guy. I got to live there. But, is there a possibility of a variance for her to continue her farmer's market? She's got one now. Everybody buys stuff from her now. Is there a possibility for just a variance to continue that and not go to RA, which is such a broad zone change? So, thank you.
Thank you. That's it. Okay. This is going to be your opportunity. If you did not sign up to speak and you've not already spoken, because you didn't understand you needed to sign up to speak, then I will give you an opportunity to speak if you've not already spoken. Ma'am? Just state your name when you get to the podium.
I'm slow.
Since we didn't have a speaker form filled out for you.
Okay. My name's Pam Zaborni, and I live on the west side of the Baptist church. Met Maria when she first moved in, and her long-term goal was to make this her retirement home and her be able to be self-sustained by selling blueberries and doing other things. As far as this farmer's market's concerned, there's some confusion. The planning and zoning people recommended that she should put a gate on the Barclay front of her property to prevent anybody from going in on 7th Street. And she says she can do this, and if that's a concern, then nobody on 7th Street is going to be affected. I live right there, and I didn't hear hardly anybody over there. Sound travels, and it was just people out enjoying the day with their families, picking blueberries, feeding chickens, whatever they wanted to do. And I really don't think this is a hindrance to the community. I'd be proud to have her as a blueberry farm and her be able to sell her things. As she stated before, Auburn University will only certify her organic if she's RA. And that's her main goal, is to get the certification from Auburn so that she can raise strictly organic food. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All that being said, I think there's no one's walked in the room since I made that request there. That being said, we will close the public hearing. Corey, come back to the podium. Do we have any questions for staff?
I have a question. Ms. Corey, where they were talking about 7th Street and Key Avenue, 7th Street doesn't go all the way through, correct?
Correct, it is.
From Barclay to
Correct,
Key.
it is just a wooded, unimproved, unopened right-of-way.
Yes. And then at 7th Street and Key Avenue, there's by this map that I see, and I thought I saw something over here on the other screen, was there an access to get to her property? Yes, right there, I think, at the top.
Yeah, right up here, I don't know if you can see my cursor moving, but there's a gated area over here.
So is that what the concerns are with some of the citizens about traffic on 7th Street?
On Key Avenue now,
Avenue and
this is if that entrance will be allowed to be used. We did discuss this during the Planning Commission, and it would likely be that there will need to be an entrance for anyone coming onto the property from Barclay Avenue.
You still have?
No, go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, this is a question for staff. So the request is to ask us to change the use of this property primarily in order to get a certification from an organization that says the use has to be designated. But by asking that request, it is opening up the use to anything that is in that use, which is, even though the planning department did not give an emphatic yes or no, you've remained neutral, it is not compatible with the surrounding zoning designation, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct, and that's kind of our goal.
Which puts a huge burden on when you start to change the use, you can completely undermine the whole zoning process if it's incompatible. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure that I'm understanding that. And okay, any other questions for staff before we entertain a motion?
One more question.
I want to ask. Go ahead. Excuse me. I want to ask a question from Highway. Frank, what is your take on traffic?
So, Barclay Avenue is a 2-lane public road. Key Avenue is a 2-lane public road. And the portion of 7th Street at the northeast corner of Miss Maria's property going to the north, that portion of 7th Street is a 2-lane public road. Traffic, this is a residential area. Traffic could be a problem depending on the volume. I don't know what that volume would be. And it was, as mentioned, 7th Street, the portion that borders the eastern side of Miss Maria's property is a public right-of-way, but it's unopened. You can't pass through there with a vehicle. So depending on the traffic volumes that this market or this farm would generate, could pose a concern. We just don't know what those volumes are.
All right. Mr. Lundy, would you tell us what agreement did we enter in with this applicant already as far as opening up something, clearing some bushes away, or what was that about?
Yes, sir. A few months ago, Ms. Maria came to the county commission, asked permission to grant her a license agreement to allow her to keep the brush trimmed along her eastern fence boundary. And, she could keep the brush trimmed on her side of the fence with no problem. She doesn't need permission from that. But on the county side, she cannot do work on the county's property without permission. So the license agreement that was granted was to allow her to mow a 6-foot strip, 6 foot wide, only 6 foot, now it's made very clear, behind her fence on the county side to keep the brush in control.
Was there, so since then, we have not been out there and done the work, and maybe there was a conversation that was had between this applicant and your staff on when this work is going to take place, because I wanted this body to know and the citizens to know that it was clearly stated that she needed this cleared out for a road to her farmer's market.
It's my understanding that there was a conversation with staff within Highway that there was that was mentioned.
And a 6-foot strip is not a good road, right?
It is not. But
I mean, I don't see how any two cars could pass each other on a 6-foot
The intentions for it only being 6 feet was that it would have no vehicular traffic. It was just to keep her fence clean. Was that not what we understood?
That is exactly correct. The permission that was granted was to in no way allow vehicular traffic. That's why it was 6 foot wide, to allow a lawnmower to go in and keep the brush cut back off the fence. There was no permission, no discussion at all about allowing that to be used as a road. It would not be possible.
At that time, there wasn't the discussion held. Since then, there has been discussions held that this would be utilized as a road. Am I correct?
Our highway personnel did receive some information that there may be an intended use of using that cleared area, that 6-foot area, as a driveway. I do not know if that is accurate, but that is I know that the information relayed to us and the conversation is accurate. I do not know the intent of Ms. Maria of using that as a drive, but that was mentioned in a conversation.
Frank, if it, hypothetical, it does pass, all we're doing is changing the zoning, correct? Or Matthew, I'm sorry. If it does, it still has to go in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission for other things. That's when you can, and if she violates her contract, you can block it off and keep anybody from using it. Am I correct on that?
If the license, there's two pieces here. I'm going to go back to the license agreement we were just discussing. If this license agreement is used for any purpose other than what the permissions that were specifically given, it's been made very clear that we will come back to the county commission with a recommendation to void that license agreement and revoke it for any purpose other than mowing that brush.
That's right.
But what I think the other question you asked was that if this rezoning were to be granted and they would go back to the Planning Commission for a conditional use, conditional uses have nothing to do with the license agreement.
That's correct.
Okay, is there any other questions?
On that conditional use, that would, they would have to include a site plan of how they're going to enter this property and everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because they can't use 7th Street. They can't use 7th Street at all for access whatsoever, right?
It's my understanding that the entrance would need to be from Barclay.
Okay. Okay.
And I've got one more question. Just looking at the situation here, it is a unique place for a farm. You're traveling in and out of a lot of residents, and I'm sure everybody right now is fine with it because the traffic is very limited. And I don't understand what's wrong with the way. I know the organic thing is a thing, but the selling of the blueberries and everything else that we saw in all those beautiful pictures is, nobody has a problem with that. I mean, to continue on as is. I think to answer your question, Matt, rezoning is important here because if you rezone this to something else that's, that has all those other different uses, if something happens to this family and they're not here anymore, then this property is open for all that other stuff to come in without anybody stopping it. And I think that's the thing that I'm most scared about, that I know it has to go through a chain of command, but I have a problem with all this stuff being allowed as permitted uses on RA in the middle of a neighborhood, potentially. If you know, she doesn't have to say one way or the other, this is going to be a farmer's market. I mean, she could change her mind and, you know, put in an RV park or other things. So,
Well, once it gets to a conditional use situation, we have seen very firsthand of how stipulations that are put on conditional uses are violated right and left in the county. It ends up in a lot of litigation. It's not an easy scenario, and so whenever you take and spot zone something that is not compatible, it just opens up a huge can of worms. I'm very disappointed that Auburn University wouldn't look at this and say that, you know what, if this is the main reason that you're trying to do that, other than us trying to completely change the use of the property just because we want we got another institution that won't change the organic. So what I'm hearing is that we really just want this because we want to get certified by Auburn University, that we have to do this. I mean, I've heard things, which I know doesn't have to do with this, but sometimes people are out in a commercial area and they still have a residence there, but because it's in a zoned area of this was actually, you know, then the bank wouldn't give them a home loan because it was zoned commercial, and there would be no reason why whatsoever that you would want to go say, oh, well, we're going to rezone this to residential when you're right in the middle of commercial. So just rezoning something because some other institution would not approve what you really want to do, it does really open up a lot of things for not only, the county is right now dab in the middle of litigation of permitted conditional, I'm sorry, that's not saying it right, of conditional uses in other arenas because, you know, I'm a farmer's wife, okay? But when this property was purchased, it was already zoned residential single-family estate. You can do everything that you're doing. The only thing that you want is you want that designation, and you're asking us to undermine the whole point of having a land use tool in the tool chest. So it has nothing to do with being a good person. It has nothing to do with that. We are being asked to rezone something that is a use. Not that we're good people, not that we grow good vegetables or anything. That is wonderful. That is fantastic. But to ask us to take such a drastic measure just because of one other situation opens up a whole can of worms for all these other things to be permitted right dab in the middle of an agricultural scenario.
Corey, let me ask you this. Under the current zone that it is now, RSFE, under condition uses, you can put a daycare if it gets approved. You can put a fire station if you want it, a school, an event venue. So most of the citizens' objection of this is about parking. So there you go. There's 6.1 acres. I understand y'all's thinking on this, but I understand what this lady wants to do with this piece of property, the American dream, to come here and to put a farmer's market and prosper and make something of herself. I get it, what you're saying. I do. I understand the things, but that's my concern, because under conditional uses, she can put a venue there, and then people still will be upset because of the parking. It doesn't matter. So I just wanted to let y'all understand. You know, I understand y'all's concerns. I really do. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Is there any other concerns from the commission? If not,
I got one more.
Yes, sir.
Just want to ask one more question. Is there anything preventing the applicant from growing organic vegetables or fruits? Is there anything preventing that? If she wanted to plant organic seeds in her farm, she can do that.
Correct.
And the people that love buying from her will trust her enough that these are organic. Doesn't have to have a certification stamp on it in my mind. I feel like what's happening there now is exactly pursuing the dream that she came here for. Hang on just a second, she was a nurse for 30 years. You can't pursue a dream more than that. I mean, that's a highly respected profession, and now she's retired and started, in my mind, what is her own farmer's market, because she's got people coming to her house picking blueberries, selling stuff from what she called her farmer's market, a nice barn. I'm trying to find out, are we only trying to rezone this so Auburn will certify her for organic vegetables?
It's not just a certification for organic vegetables. It also goes to liability. As she worked for 30 years to gain the funds to purchase a property, to live out the American dream.
Right.
Okay.
As my mother did.
Right, but your mother didn't purchase estate lots. They purchased RA farmland.
For her to have her market and to have people come there to purchase, she needs to be insured.
Ms. Feely?
Liability insurance.
Ms. Feely, if you're answering a question from Mr. Ball, that's fine, but public hearing portion is over.
I understand, and I apologize. I just wanted to get that.
We're recorded, so we need it to be in a formal manner where that we're by microphones. Thank you.
That's all.
Anything else from the commissioners? All that being said, we're being asked to rezone this. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion that we approve case number Z23-37 from RSFE to RA.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the rezoning request by Commissioner McKenzie. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second by Commissioner Gruber. Any discussion before we go to the vote? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Nay. I believe that's a 2-2. The motion fails. Next item on the case number Z23-29. Hold on just a second, Matthew. If you guys would.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. This is another rezoning request for Z23-29, the Wolf property. I do want to thank Selena Boykin. She was a senior planner on this. I'm presenting it for her today. This is a request to rezone 8.8 acres from RSFE to B4. Here's some basic overview information. It's Planning District 12. Now, the subject property is located on the Beach Express, just south of I-10. We'll show some maps here to get you oriented. The individual, the applicant's here. He'll speak with you today. This came before y'all because there was a pre-application meeting quite some time ago. We have tons of these pre-application meetings. It's easy for us to kind of forget about the details of them unless they come forward with an application. Well, then a couple months ago, someone had a sign on the Beach Express advertising an RV park that we knew had not been approved. And we went out there and they had placed 3 RV spaces and were operating it. And so then that brought this pre-application meeting back up. And there was a misunderstanding from that pre-app that had taken place. Now it must be close to 1.5 to 2 years ago. They thought that that was the rezoning itself. So that's brought us back to this point today. The applicant wants to put an RV park in the rear of the property and utilize the frontage from some type of higher commercial use, and they've mentioned a doctor's office, and you can ask him about that today. Just to orient yourself, you can see where this is located in relation to Buc-ee's. There has been a number of B4 zonings in that area. You'll notice on the east side of the road that the properties are zoned RSFE. Now, this case is a little tricky, and I want to point out this nuance right here. Staff's recommendation was denial because of all the residential properties right here. At the meeting itself, during the public hearing, which is why these are important, the owner came with a couple property owners from the area and talked about how all these property owners over there got together. They did have a covenant on their property saying no commercial use, and they all got together and removed that covenant, as we understand it, because they all expect this property to become commercial moving forward. And so I think that is worth noting, and is certainly a valid thing to come up during the public hearing. And I think you could say that staff's position switched to neutral based on that new information, and they provided us with copies of those covenants showing that everybody had signed off on removing that commercial use. Here's a picture of the property and surrounding properties, what's allowed under RSFE, which you all are familiar with from the case we just reviewed. B4 is a pretty substantial jump. It does allow an RV park and a number of other uses. Of course, that is becoming a pretty intense area as a whole. In our review, there were a number of areas we felt like this was spot on, and our biggest concern again was compatibility. Again, this was prior to the public hearing we had at the Planning Commission, because we knew we had all these residential homes there, and we didn't feel like the transition had occurred properly for this zoning to take place. One other thing that we did know is that there have been a number of other B4 zonings in the area, and with the exception of Buc-ee's, there's been very little actual development on those zonings, which also gave us a little bit of pause, because it made it feel a little bit like it wasn't yet ripe for additional commercial zoning. So again, some of the things that gave us pause there. This is located in an area that we've identified as a commercial and industrial node under the master plan. We don't know that doctor's offices necessarily fit what we envisioned for that commercial industrial node, but there's certainly grounds where it could be supported for a rezoning on that basis. The only other thing I would note, when we look at the rezoning history, we have actually had one case fairly recently in 2018 where they requested to rezone from B4 back to RSFE so they could put a home on a property. That's one of the very southern properties on the east side of the Beach Express. Again, highlighting the fact that there hasn't been a lot of commercial pressure for these properties that have zoned B3 or B4 in recent years. Because this is on the Beach Express, which recently was transferred to the Alabama Department of Transportation, there is an access management plan, and there is a pretty extensive process that will be required, even if this was rezoned, to make sure that they're actually able to access the Beach Express for a commercial use. So that is another thing that keeps things a little up in the air with this property as well. So again,
I hate to interrupt you on that, but why wouldn't that be something that we would need to know before we rezone this, if the Alabama Department of Transportation is going to grant access, because there's an access management plan for the Beach Express that passed along with the conveyance of that property. And
so that's a great question. When you look at that access management plan, it requires a pretty substantial investment in terms of traffic studies and everything like that. And there is a pretty straightforward path forward for a right in and right out. A full median opening would be probably impossible to get here. But if they would be willing to settle for a right in and right out, there's going to have to put some investment into turn lanes and things like that. There's a lengthy drive or throat entrance that's required there. So I think that there's a path forward if it gets rezoned. you don't know all that until all that investment has occurred in the process. So it is kind of a chicken and an egg situation they are up against.
So there goes your tricky. You said tricky at the beginning, didn't you?
That's right. And so that's where we are on this one. And again, initially we recommended denial based on the public hearing. We kind of switched our position to a neutral position. The Planning Commission recommended approval after hearing what they heard from the citizens in the area. That's all we have.
Could you put up the uses allowed in B4?
Matthew, does it have to be B4 for a doctor's office?
No, a doctor's office could be accomplished in B2. An RV park would require a B4.
So they would be out by right. They could have a recreational vehicle park, an RV park by right, no conditional use required, as long as they meet all the,
What do you mean by
pave the roads and stuff like that in there, that kind of stuff's what I mean.
That's right. And again, the new commission site plan process has some other safety measures in place for a situation just like this, where an area that is residential is becoming commercial. So if they're within 200 feet of a home for an RV park, they would still trigger that commission site plan process. We'd have to check which of those triggers apply. So there's still some safety measures there, but again, this is a little bit of a tricky case because it's at a location where you could see future commercial.
And so the request is so that they can put an RV park there, right?
That's right. I mean, they have 3 spaces.
And hasn't there been a lot of...
So where did the doctor's office come up with?
You'll have to talk to the applicant. Apparently his son's a doctor, and when he came to us most recently for this application, he said he wanted to put a doctor's office in the front and RV park in the rear. And so that's kind of...
I got you.
Okay, so hasn't there been some denials on RV parks recently in other areas? Quite a few?
There have been. Now, those have been predominantly RV park requests in RA, which require that conditional use, and more and more of those are getting denied.
And even though this is a potential future commercial corridor, it is an expressway corridor, and there's a lot of rural agriculture all around it as well, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, that's all. Any other questions for Matthew before we open the public hearing?
Yeah, Matthew, go back to the map real quick of the property. So tell me, so you're going to exit off the Beach Express into this RV park?
That's right. They would have to install a turn lane. It'd be a right turn lane, and then you would only be able to take a right turn exit out as well and to head north.
Okay.
I want to ask Frank something else. Frank, if you still own the roads here, if this was something maintained by Baldwin County, what's your feelings on this conception?
I think it would produce some very much a challenge. Most people that would be coming in to stay in an RV are coming from out of town. They would be coming from the north. So if it's a right in, right out stereo, the RV would have to approach only from the south. So if someone is coming from the north,
they're going to have to do a U-turn somewhere.
They're going to have to do a U-turn somewhere.
And isn't that R-cut just right past there? Not very far?
That is correct.
About how far? Quarter mile?
Within a half mile or so.
Okay. Which is going to take up a lot of
I'm just
room.
Thinking of the pileup of RVs trying to make that left-hand turn. You're right, and there's nobody coming from the south going north coming to the RV park. Right. They're all traveling down to the beach. That means they're going to exit right off the interstate here at Buc-ee's. They're going to come down and with a camper and tow and have to do a turn to get back to the RV park. I just want to
very
understand the safety aspect on this.
A very narrow median in there too at that point.
It is narrow.
And that's why that R-cut, am I saying that right? Safety grant was given for 64, because that's in my district, and I got a lot of complaints about in the mornings when the school bus can't even fit in the median. If, when you're coming from 64 across, they have to wait till it's clear all the way because there's not enough room for a bus length to wait in the middle of the road. Does that make, not middle of the road, but middle of the turn? Whatever.
That's
median.
That is correct, and it would be the same principle with a large RV.
Okay. All right. So, all right, well, is there any more questions are you finished, or did we interrupt
I'm finished.
you?
One other point I think I would make from a planning perspective, probably because we do recognize this could develop commercial in the future, but the ideal way for it to develop would be with a service road coming off of 68 intersection and heading south, where there's already a traffic light, and you already have that surface road that heads north and gives access to those properties to the north. And unfortunately, because this is parceled up this way, this is almost creating a scenario where it's like a piecemeal type development instead of more of a holistic development of the east side of that road. So
It's okay. It's tricky.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll close the regular meeting and open the public hearing on case number Z23-29, the Wolf property rezoning. Do we have someone signed up to speak?
Yes, ma'am. First up, we have Charles Wolf.
Good afternoon. When I first looked at this piece of property, it was with the idea of having a doctor's office. My son's a doctor over in Pensacola. He's a neurosurgeon, and he has a partner, and we talked about coming up here and looking for a place to do a medical office. So that was the primary reason we bought the place. The RV park sort of dropped up later. It was an idea, and I went over to the water company, and they said, well, you got to have a sketch and whatnot, everything. So I drew up an RV park there. That's the way we got the RV park. It wasn't bought to put an RV park there originally, our thoughts. Now, I would like to, now that we've gotten this far, consider that. And a couple points there are, it is a little less than a quarter mile down to the dollar store, and there is a major turnaround right there. It's a full turnaround at the dollar store, so it's not that far from us. That's 1,300 feet, which isn't very far. We're almost halfway between Buc-ee's and the dollar store, a little bit closer to the dollar store. Now, we were not putting, even our plans only showed like 20 RVs. And most RVs, it's not everything overnight. Most of them are there for a month or so at the time. So you wouldn't have one RV a day coming in and out of that place. It's not like it's going to be some major markup. People tend to stay. Even the people that did stay, if they were on a short term, would stay 3 or 4 days, and they'd be in and out with the RV one time. So, but our plans almost accelerate a little bit because my son has got a new partner, and we've talked about maybe going ahead and doing a medical business up front. And that's pretty much the other thing was Ms. Vaughn, the person I bought it from, before I bought it, she got I think it was like 17 different neighbors to sign off on it being commercial, and nobody turned it down. All the neighbors, they expect it to be commercial, and they want it to be commercial. So there's no backlash there. The other thing is you talked about it being agricultural. Well, it was agricultural across the road for half a mile there, and that has all been rezoned to B4 or to whatever the business zoning is.
I'm sorry.
And that was rezoned.
Wrap it up for me, because
I'm sorry. So that was rezoned to resell it. That's why it hadn't developed much. It hasn't been business for years and years and years. It was relatively after Buc-ee's got put in it. I think was when it was zoned.
Thank you, sir.
So that's the reason it hadn't done anything.
Appreciate it.
And they
Your
want
time's up.
Okay.
Next.
Karen Vaughn.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for hearing us out. Like Charlie said, I sold him the property. I went through 6 years and $16,000 in attorney fees to make this right. I went to an attorney. And he said, Karen, we told him that we'd like to do it as, we had a deed restriction in our deed, and we had to have our deed restriction removed. We paid 30% of the sale of our property to have that deed restriction removed. But what we had to do was, per our attorney, we had to contact everyone that lived around our area. I mean, I even held meetings, 2 meetings, invited all of our neighbors, 15 parcels, a total of 120 acres. We were able to meet with these people individually, and my attorneys drew up papers, and we have everyone's signature that they did not have a problem with us going as commercial. If one person denied us, it was out. We couldn't have done what we did to sell it as possible commercial property to the next owner, which is Mr. Wolf. So I have 15 parcels, and that's everybody that lives around Mr. Wolf's property. Every signature, which is a total of 120 acres that touches parcel to parcel all the way around, they have agreed for us to release our deeds in as commercial. Now, when we sold the property, everybody's commercial deeds were removed. Anybody that had a commercial deed on their property at that time was removed. So therefore, we had to sign the same thing. So if my neighbor wanted to go commercial property, we wouldn't object to them. It was kind of like, if you want to do this, it's okay, and if we want to do this, it's okay too. We basically paved the way for everyone that lives around Mr. Wolf to do the same thing, if they choose to do so without objection. So, and like you said, across the street, all of that has just been rezoned. They have done absolutely nothing with it. Mr. Wolf, there's no doubt in my mind, he will make a beautiful medical center there for his son, and I've got to know him, and I know that what he'll do will be top-notch on a small RV park, and, you know, he'll take good care of it. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't feel like it'll be an eyesore, and if they will allow turn lanes, I think it'll be a great asset to the community. It's just a great location, and, you know, people could come. I have an RV myself, so I wouldn't hesitate staying there.
I do have I've got a question for you.
Okay.
When you sold your property to Mr. Wolf, you sold the property to him with the intentions of him building a medical center, right?
And an RV park first.
He just said that that wasn't in his plans at first.
Well,
so when y'all got all the petitions from these other landowners, and they said, okay, we'll release our restrictions on our deeds, because this is a huge thing to do. I mean, you're changing the face of all these properties, and I just, when all those things that you got passed, I want to make sure that RV Park's mentioned in the wording to these other neighbors, and they approved also RV Park.
Not for an RV park, because we didn't know that it was going to be.
Yes, ma'am, that's what I was asking to solve this.
But they approved for us to go commercial, and even when I sold it.
Can I ask you, there's a lot of commercial steps that we have. We've got all the way from B1 to B4.
Right.
And what Mr. Wolf initially asked for would work under B2, a less dense commercial zoning that would work for his medical office.
Right.
And it's just now that there's an RV factor into this, I'm just trying to find where the support is in the writings that you have there, and people that gave over their covenants for commercial, that they knew that the RV park may potentially go there.
They didn't know it was an RV park, because we didn't know at the time. We just put it up for sale. But I can tell you this, whenever we sold the property, in order for me personally to have our deed restriction removed, I had to pay Ham Enterprise $137,000. I had to pay them 30% of the sale of my property to have that deed restriction removed. So, the deed restrictions are removed.
I don't understand that.
Because they can. It's greed. I'm sorry. There was in my property, my husband and I bought it. Since then, he's passed from COVID. And,
I'm sorry.
I had to sell it.
I'm sorry about that. I just didn't understand why you had to pay that much money to have a deed restriction removed.
They could have asked, my attorney said, Karen, it was 30% of the sale. And they said, Karen, they could have asked you for 50% of the sale. They could have asked you for 30. I do know this personally. The people beside us.
So when you sold this property knowing that the purchaser was wanting to buy it for commercial uses, they didn't want to have it conditioned upon rezoning?
Well, yes, they did want it conditioned upon rezoning, but we went to, he had a game plan. He had something drawn out for an RV park. We took it to Foley, and we had a kind of like a pre-meeting, and he presented them. I was there, his wife was there.
To the Foley
yes, ma'am.
County planning?
Yes,
Okay. I thought I was getting a little confused there.
Yeah, right. And this is
just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And he presented to them, and we took all of this information to them and said, we're good to go. Nobody around us is going to object to it. And they sat right there and said, you know what, the little part that he presented at that time, he did, and they said they didn't have a problem with it. And this was like the day before we closed on the property because Mr. Wolf wanted to make sure before he made that investment that it wouldn't be a problem to go commercial.
I think where we're at right now is we're in the public hearing process.
Right.
And unless there's another question from a commissioner for you, your time has expired. But I appreciate you and thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Do we have anybody else signed up to speak in the public hearing? Okay. That being said, the public hearing is closed. We'll reopen the regular meeting. Do we have any questions from the commissioners for our planning staff?
Matthew, there was nine on the commission, planning and zoning commission in favor of it?
That's right. And I will say that there was a lot of I wouldn't say confusion, but when they presented their case and they referred back to all these signatures that they had. That was the first time we'd heard anything about that for 12 to 18 months. And it all came up again at the public hearing. And so they basically said, well, hey, listen, we'll recommend approval knowing that there's still some things that need to be figured out here, including ultimately the Beach Express access, and we were going to review exactly what they had in their hand regarding those covenants that were signed off. So I would, if I was representing what position they took, it was like an approval, understanding that there was some additional vetting that had to occur.
Understanding that they didn't have to make the final decision either, right? It gets recommended to the county commission.
That's right.
So it's kind of like, a lot of times I've heard it say, we just kick that can down to y'all. I've heard it said by the chairman, matter of fact, we kick that can down to the commissioners. So I think where I'm at with this is that, yes, I agree that this area is probably going to end up being, commercial in some sense, but just because a highway is, it doesn't mean that the area is that intense of a business use. So I feel like that, we're looking at a B3 just south of there. I know B4 is across the street. I'm just a little concerned with the B4. That's the only thing. I really don't really have a whole lot of problem with it becoming commercial. It's the B4 designation that's being asked because that is the most extreme use of business designation. And I'm just curious that when all these people signed off on everything that lived in the surrounding area, understood the intensity of the different business designations. That is probably my concern, but there would be no way in this meeting to change that designation without another public notification. Am I correct? Yeah. Okay.
And I think part of
so where we're at right now is we're being asked to rezone this to a B4, no other option except for to approve it or to deny it, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Any more questions for Matthew?
Thank you, Matthew.
None? Nope. That being said, then, we're being asked to approve this as a rezoning from residential single-family estate to B4.
Hang on just a second.
Okay, you got
I
one?
just thought of one more thing.
Uh-oh.
Is there something another B4 another B designation that it will allow an RV park?
So Corey, maybe you can check this. Can they do a conditional use in B3? Because part of he unfortunately installed some very expensive improvements for 3 spaces already without any approvals from the county, which is part of why he finds himself in a bind right now, because he basically already has an RV park on the property, 3 spaces in the rear. And so that's part of why we're in a little bit tighter position in this situation.
So you're saying that you're recommending a zoning because someone's in violation?
No, not at all. Not at all. Absolutely not.
I'm just curious. I'm going to make sure I understood that right.
We always tell people, we say, okay, so what is a path forward?
Okay.
And so that's kind of, I feel like almost like the question Commissioner Ball just asked, like, what is this path forward? One option, if he could come back and request an RV1, which would allow 6 units per acre, so it would allow a less intense RV park. Another option is he could try to go for RA, which we just saw happen, and then come back with a conditional use approval for an RV park. But there is no simple path forward. This is a tricky case because of all the different pieces in play right now.
Is there a way to table it to where you and the applicant could work up on an idea, bring it back to us at the next commission date so he doesn't lose his place for a year to come back and ask for something else?
So we could table it and give him the opportunity to withdraw it. We're not allowed to change the zoning request once it's been advertised. So if he decides he wanted to try and change the zoning request, he would just restart from the beginning. But since it was not voted on today, at least he wouldn't be barred for a year.
Can I ask the applicant something? Come up to the microphone. Would you be willing to work with our staff to try to come up with another solution?
Certainly it would, yeah.
Okay.
And can I say one thing that's been said here? The supposed RV park that we sort of had there, that was not really, that was where the double wide trailer was sitting. And so I had a friend working for me that he decided to rent one of those spots out to an RV. And as I know, I think there was only one there, but it's actually, we didn't do any groundwork or anything like that. It was actually where the double wide was.
There's been some RV park rezoning requests in the vicinity, I'm not saying right in that area, that have been denied in the past few years. And there are some RV police out there, citizens is what, well, not police, real police.
Just watch.
So your area is under constant citizen watch for violation of RV park scenarios. And so, I know it happens. It's unfortunate sometimes that, people, they don't understand all the rules and regulations, and they go out and do things and put infrastructure and stuff in without having the right permitting or approval and that kind of stuff. And unfortunately for you, yours requires an actual rezoning, which is where it's something that sometimes people learn afterwards, and then it gets put on the elected body to remedy a mistake that a citizen made without inquiring beforehand. So it makes it very, very difficult for these to get to this scenario, and everybody's just looking for, as Matthew always says, it's like a judge and jury. It puts us in that scenario where we have to make a decision to the best of our ability based on things that we have. So It's tricky.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
The whole side of us, which is a half mile right across the street, is all B4.
We see
that. What are the negatives for us to B4? There's no neighbors complaining. There's nobody backs up to us. We go back to the power line right away, so they're back there.
Well,
neither one of the neighbors.
This is basically a very busy road, and an access management plan is already in place for this road. And our county engineer already stated that, there would have to be substantial improvements for access to this property.
Right.
And so it's not just because the people across the street are B4 that it's okay. Right. There's access to those B4 parcels off of County Road 68.
Yeah.
Technically,
right.
I think.
Well, there are some accesses off the road right now. There are several along there, 3 of them.
So I think we're beyond unless there's some more questions for the applicant. Is there any more questions for the applicant?
Matthew, do you have maybe a different path forward we could take today?
So just talking to Corey real quickly, there is a conditional use approval allowance in B2 zoning for an RV park. So that's a lower density RV park, 6 units per acre. That would also allow his medical office there.
The medical office would be allowed by right.
So I think that's a potential path forward. It would require y'all to table it today with your consent, so that way we could talk to you about that as an option, and then he could withdraw this application in the interim if that's what he decided to do. If he decided not to, it could potentially come back in front of y'all in a month from now, basically.
Mr. Wolf, I'm just trying to save you from waiting a year to come back.
Yeah, obviously, I paid a lot of money for this property.
So my recommendation to body today is going to be to table this so y'all can work out something.
Okay.
And then we'll come back at a later date.
Yeah, I'll be much more to talk to him, but I paid a really premium price for this. So obviously, I want the highest that I could get, maybe B3 or whatnot.
We got all that. Hang on a second.
So
it'd be the second meeting in January is what he thinks. But I want it on the record that he's consenting to the tabling, and to that. Let's get the specific date of that meeting so we table it to a date certain.
January 16th. It'd be the January 16th meeting.
Okay, but if we were to table it, I thought you said we couldn't change the zoning.
Well, we can't. It'll give him an opportunity, instead of kind of putting him on the spot today, he can withdraw it during that month period.
Okay, he needs to understand what that means.
That's right.
Because that doesn't mean that you're going to get a rezoning of any nature particularly. You may or may not. I mean, number one, you can plow through with what we've asked for today and either get an approval or denial. Or you can, at your request, now we have to, because the time frame is up for you to request a withdrawal, it would be up to the commission to allow a withdrawal. Or if you would ask us to table it, then it would be at the discretion of the commissioners if you wanted to table it. But tabling it would only give you the opportunity to move forward with the original rezoning request, or to say, I want to withdraw it, because you run the risk of, well, if it's approved, and you're happy, right? But if you run the risk of it being denied, then you have 12 months before you can even request a rezoning. So that does give you a little bit of time, about a month, in order to kind of digest, do I want to take the risk or not the risk? It's not a roulette wheel, but it's something like that,
And there is a distinction. You made a comment about there was a double-wide trailer already on the property. That's a home. That's not an RV.
No, I understand.
And so we've had a lot of people that I know of personally that has taken mobile home parks, and beside their mobile home park has converted about another 40 places for RV parks.
Right.
And that is not the use intended for a mobile home park.
No, I understand.
And so I just wanted to clarify that mobile home you had sitting there to start with that somebody was renting out, that does not set the precedence for RV parks.
No, I understand that. No, I was just saying that's how a thing got there, but we we didn't make an RV park there. You know, it was just used.
Matthew,
Would you like for us to
hang on
vote?
just a second. Matthew alluded to the fact that you've put.
I would like you to vote yes.
You want us to vote yes or no and not table?
I would like
not
you to
request
vote
a
yes or
table?
no. And then I have to wait a year.
Yes, if it fails, then you cannot resubmit for a rezoning request for a year.
I would say again, there's no downside to it being B4. You've got it.
No, your question is, do you want us to vote on it today or not? You've already asked us, in the public hearing.
I would like for you to vote, please.
You would like for us to vote?
Yes.
Okay, all right, then thank you, sir. All right, that being said, commissioners, do I hear a motion on this case?
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny the request.
I have a motion to deny. Do I have a second? We need to bring it to a vote.
So do I need to make a note?
I'll make a motion so we can have further discussion.
Okay. So we have a motion and then a
Second.
So
With discussion.
now, would we like to discuss this before we actually go to a vote amongst the commissioners?
Yeah. All right, so if you, my understanding, he doesn't want to withdraw, right?
He said he wants to take.
He wants to take the thing now, okay.
No, he's wanting us to vote on B4 today.
Okay, yeah.
He doesn't want to withdraw.
Okay. No more questions amongst the commissioners? No more discussion? All those in favor of denying this request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, so 2-2, so the motion to rezone fails.
Well, let's say technically the motion to deny failed, so if somebody wants to make another
Okay.
motion, they can.
All right, thank you for that clarification. All right, so the motion to deny fails. Is there any other motion?
I make a motion that we approve.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Both motions fail. So the rezoning request is denied.
Denied.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay, let's make sure. All right, so now we're down to other staff recommendations. I believe we have the two archives and history items.
Yes,
So-
CC1, CC2.
All right, on CC1, do we have a motion?
Hang on, let me look at this first.
That's the one where it was,
Before we go too fast. That was what, the North Baldwin Chambers?
yes.
Can I just, I wanted to clear up something from our work session. So on item CC1, just to bring to the body's attention, we have had events in the past that has been on county property where North Baldwin Chamber bought and sold the alcohol. Probably the most recent event would be the Delta Dash held at Live Oak Landing, which the county commission always approved that truck that had beer in it to be brought out to Live Oak Landing and set up by the pavilion.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, was to ask if have we done that, has the commission done that before?
Yes. Now, the liability for this event is totally on North Baldwin Chamber as far as licensing, purchasing, or selling. It has nothing to do with the Baldwin County Commission, nor any of the funds that we are using from the historic funds that will be appropriated into that venture. That's totally on North Baldwin Chamber. The reason that they are adding this in to this event is because of the level of different types of chefs that will be setting up that will probably be selling wine or something with their food that they're preparing, and that was, all I wanted to say about that. I'm not promoting
Okay.
I'm giving you clarification that we have done this before.
I was told that the Delta Dash did that, but I was not aware that it was something that was approved by this body that might have been approved by a prior commission when the planning portion was happening.
We approved it in 2019, right before COVID, so COVID knocked the Delta Dash out, so we just never had it back there again.
Well, it's kind of like one of those things today where that unless you really read everything, maybe I missed it then, and I didn't attend the Delta Dash myself, so I just think that it's not allowed in our parks, and for us to start doing that would open up something that I don't think is necessary. So, with all that being said, do we have a motion to approve item CC1 as is, or with any adjustments?
I make that motion.
I'll second.
So we're approving it as is to sell the alcohol?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No, 3-1.
And then, Madam Chairman, on CC2, if we could just, for the record, the resolution to reflect the time instead of 8 to 4 to be 8 to 5.
Okay, so we need a motion. That's your motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. We are down to no addenda?
I do have one thing that you need to add. As you're aware, and we had a little discussion a little while ago, I started the process of looking into the Baldwin County Library Cooperative, the possibility of us being able to just allocate funds to the 501c3 and not necessarily have to have a board. I got curious about a few things, and as you're aware, dug into it, and even though it was formed over 20 years ago, essentially that 501c3 is in non-compliance. It's an improper 501c3 because the Baldwin County Library Cooperative never had the authority to form such a 501c3. Thanks with the assistance of the county attorney, we've been looking into exactly how we needed to move forward and address this issue. And also yesterday we had a meeting with basically 11 of the library's representatives to figure out how we needed to address this and move forward and still achieve what the commission had in the original doing is basically not necessarily having to handle all this stuff with a board. What I'm asking for today is just your permission to, with the county attorney's assistance, to start a process to unwind the 501c3 since it is improper and in non-compliance, and also to develop a plan to work with the municipal libraries to make sure that cooperative services that they do rely on is still in place moving forward.
We need to state that in the form of a motion?
It doesn't need to be a motion because you're not really taking any formal action today. It just needs to be noted on the record that y'all are fine with him going forward, and there will be a time in the future, and not the too distant future, where there will be a formal motion.
All right, so I guess I misstated that, Brad. Should we vote to tell him we want him to move forward?
You just need a nod, don't you?
We can just say we're okay.
You just need a nod to look into it.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that everybody's good for me moving forward
Not
with
that you're
this.
just running off road and doing something without
Yes, ma'am. I would like to make sure you...
That sound all right?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. You all right with that, Skip?
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right.
That's good. Let's get it taken care of.
Let's get it taken care of. Okay, and well, while we're there, would you like to just mention a little bit about the item with the Baldwin Preparatory Academy and that appropriation, since you were working with that?
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
we approved it, but I mean...
Yes. Well, yeah, and that's the minute. I just want to make sure we make note of that, today, and what was the number? CA3. Basically, that is what the commission approved on that and the consent agenda, because again, the commission was fully supportive of this, was the fund and allocation to the Baldwin County Public School System for the Baldwin Preparatory Academy. We are going to fund $5 million over the next 5 years, starting with this year. So it will be $1 million appropriation, which is also was a budget amendment within that action. Again, this is going towards, again, workforce development. This adds to our investment in being able to provide the workforce necessary for jobs that are coming to the area, particularly Novellis. So again, I would consider this another investment into everything that this county has committed and already has spent with the mega site and bringing a company like Novellus in. So again, this is, I think this is something well worth noting, and I do appreciate the commission going ahead and getting this taken care of, and I do appreciate our budget director, Beth Hodges, and coming up with a way to make sure we could take care of this. It took a little bit of time, but we were able to figure it out, and thanks to her and her hard work, we feel comfortable that we can move forward with that commitment. And again, thank you, the commission, for moving forward with this too.
All right, thank you. So, any press questions? You walked out while we were talking about the Baldwin Prep Academy. You got to go back and review it. I'm sorry. All right, do you have any press questions?
Not right now.
Okay. Anybody else that's with the press that I can't see through the poll? No? Okay. I'm sorry. I'll never stop talking about these polls. Probably. Okay, it's down to commissioner comments. Commissioner Gruber, why don't you start?
I want to thank staff for what they've done, to get us into this meeting, and all the hard work that they put into getting the agenda, and all the staff time that they have in taking care of all these public hearing stuff, and just want to thank them for what they do, and also want to remember a good dear friend who passed away over last week, Mr. Ed Kane. His funeral is today, and I just want to say condolence to his family and everyone else, that's associated with him. He was a farmer and also worked in a Grant tractor for many years. But he's sorely going to be missed. And also, just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And y'all take care, and if you're traveling, travel safely. Thank you very much.
Commissioner McKenzie?
I'd just like to say thank you to the staff and everybody. Ditto what Commissioner Gruber said. I do want to say something about the school board. That commitment was done before I got on commission, that $5 million. And just my opinion, I feel like that I'm going to go along with it. I disagree with it, but it's okay. Move forward. Everybody have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I will be out of town, so if you need me, please call me. So, anyway, just want to say thank y'all, and y'all have a Happy New Year. To all the employees out there, please be safe and have a Happy New Year. So that's all I've got to say.
Okay.
Yes, I was just going to wish everybody, not only the employees, but the whole entire county, just Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from the commission. Be safe as you travel and embark and enjoy the time with family, because that's all we have left is time, if you still have family left. For those who are not going to be with family this year because of losses, just pray for everybody. And it's different seasons, and you go through all of these holiday seasons, and it starts reminding you of how small things are and how large God really is. And I was blessed to have the time that I have with my family, and so we're branching out and doing new things, and trying to get up with other family members that we haven't seen in a long time, because I don't want to go through life regretting not spending time with the ones that I've got left to love. So I encourage everybody to spend some time and give extra hugs this year and all that kind of stuff, because we're just not promised tomorrow. And just with that being said, again, Merry Christmas. Thank you to the staff. Thank you for everything that y'all do in getting us ready for these meetings. We're always a small part of all the stuff that goes into this, but we have to make some tough decisions up here. So y'all pray for us as well sometimes, and understand the stress and pressure that we're under on a constant basis. But that's what we signed up for. So if y'all need anything over the Christmas break, you can call Commissioner McKenzie, as he stated. No matter where he's at, he will answer his phone, but mine will be off over the Christmas break. And I will turn it back on first thing on January 2nd and see what I missed. So,
Okay.
Madam Chairman.
All right. Well, I thought my comments were going to be it, but you know what? I forgot something. During the work session, we were able to see the wonderful video that our staff has put together about the year in review of 2023, and so I'll go ahead and make my comments real quick so that when we're done with the video, if you guys are ready to roll, I just want to say Merry Christmas. And sometimes there's votes and things that are made. I've always felt like that you may not fully agree with something, but you can go ahead and fully support it. And I'll kind of go along with that with the same thing, like with what you said. Sometimes I don't fully agree with something, but I can go ahead and fully support it for the better of what the whole cause is. When it gets down to zoning scenarios, I truly have I will only vote against something if it really goes against the core meaning of what certain things are really about, okay? And so there's some fundamentals in there that I feel like will undermine the whole thing that the citizens try to go out there and do. So it's not personal. It has nothing to do whenever you vote against or for something. It is trying to balance. I think I'm safe with saying not one of us up here has a law degree and we're not judges or things like that, but we're actually put in that kind of a role with making these decisions in planning and zoning. And it is so interesting that you travel around this great state of Alabama and the other county commissioners, they don't even have a clue what we're talking about when we tell them that we have all this zoning stuff going on in Baldwin County. So it's something that we didn't create it. We have to contend with it. We have to deal with it. And I think that we, in the long run, will have a better Baldwin County because of it. But trust me, it is the hardest part of doing this particular job that we do. And with all that being said, I got one more thing. I'm just so thankful for family. And please, guys, what family you have, if you don't have any blood-related family, adopt you some friends and family and enjoy this wonderful season of Christmas where we celebrate Jesus' birth. That's what I celebrate. And I had opportunity to go to my niece's wedding up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it just reminded me of how precious family really is. The event that happened before this big, nice wedding that we had, which was just so authentic and heartfelt and warming, was when my mom died, and my mom's funeral last year. And so many people told me, they were like, which we didn't call it a funeral, we called it a homecoming. We feel like, to be absent with the body is to be present with the Lord. That's the way I feel. I hope everybody feels that way. But, cherish these moments while you're here with your family, because it is, you don't get a redo. You can't go back. And so with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Frank Lundy, our county engineer, and he's going to play this video for us. And I think they said they got the audio all worked out, and we're going to, as soon as that's over, we'll close out the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And without further ado, I will say we'll find the best way to close out 2023, the last meeting of 2023 is our year-end review. And so I just want to thank all the staff members who had a hand in putting this together. Look at the stats. There's details. There's data on the screen. And we are open for suggestions of how to do it better next time. Looking forward to FY24. There's some great things coming. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I was almost waiting on Cornelius Bennett to hit the Notre Dame quarterback, but I mean, I know for you Auburn fans, you were waiting on Bear Bryant to say never been nothing but a winner, but that's what Baldwin County is. Thank you guys so much. You picked that music. It's not Requiem for a Tower, but it's so close. All right, with that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn? I'm sorry, I just had to do it.
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.